Hello, my name is Dan Gallagher, and I'm here with Dr. Atul today, and we're talking about managing work permits. I suppose the reason for this topic is that the Health and Safety Authority in Ireland, where I'm based in particular, has hardened its inspection program this year, and they're particularly looking at contractor management and the permitting of high risk control jobs. But this is happening across many other jurisdictions as well. It's happening with the HSE in the United Kingdom, OSHA in the United States, EU OSHA across Europe, Safe Work in Australia, for example, as well. And the main reason is that permit failures and contractor coordination, they keep showing up at the root cause of fatal incidents wherever regulators publish data. So I think what we're seeing in Ireland right now is the leading edge of a global pattern in terms of regulators are converging on the same thing. Permit to work, contractor control are where the consequences land. So I'm with Dr. Atul. Dr. Atul will do a quick introduction for himself. He's got many, many years as an auditor, a trainer in the area of permit to work management. And he's going to talk to us today now about what he's seen as well, and some tips maybe for those of you who are putting together permit to work programs as well. So, Dr. Toole, maybe if it's okay with you, I'd like to start with maybe just a brief introduction about yourself, who you are, why should we listen to you for the next few minutes in terms of permit to work management. So,
Sure. Thank you, Dan, and hi to all the listeners. I am Atul Srivastava. I have been in the oil and gas and chemical process industries for 41 years, and the main chunk of it was in QatarEnergy LNG, where I spent 20 years. There, I spent 15 years developing, maturing the manual permit work system, and then introducing and again maturing the electronic permit work system. I was part of a PTW implementation and improvement committee. We went across the globe. We visited best of the permit to work implementing companies right from Australia to Europe to USA. And we were very much in confidence when we implemented successfully the both manual and subsequently the electronic permit work system. As Dan has rightly said, the regulators across the world are becoming very particular about the permit work system. There are many loopholes in the manual permit work system, right from its illegibility, people doing some mischiefs when some accidents happen, they just kind of misplace intentionally the permit so that nobody can investigate. People make some adjustments later on after the accidents by manually correcting certain things. All those things are not doable in the electronic permit work system. So we can say electronic permit system is a password protected, highly secure method of documenting our hazards and demonstrating that we have controlled them. Electronic permit work system, particularly the good ones, they provide a very good linkage of every control you do with the risk assessment matrix, and the permit issuers become very comfortable that what started from a high risk situation of doing their job has finally come down to a low risk, and then they can issue the permit.
okay. So,
Electronic permit work systems has demonstrated their effectiveness by reducing the major accidents hazard either in the live plant or in the shutdown plant. So I will rectify 100% electronic permit work system. Yes, Dan.
so thanks, Dr. Toole. I suppose I just have a couple of questions about whether they're on paper or electronic today. Unless you have a solid process anyway, it's kind of it's fruitless unless you get the baseline right. And you can have a good paper system with a good electronic, but let's look at some of the basics. And I suppose obviously it's not going right in some organizations because that's why the regulators, as I said, the HSA in Ireland, the HSE in the UK, OSHA in the States, they're converging on permit to work and contractor control as a priority inspection area. And that's as a result of fatality stats that we're seeing. Why do you think, though, Is there any other reason why, I suppose, that this is such an important topic now as well? Do you think the situation is getting worse as well?
See, the industrialization is expanding very rapidly, putting a lot of economic pressure, a lot of pressure on the manufacturing industry. For example, from 5 trillion economy to 10 trillion economy in the developing countries, from trillion dollar economy to 50 trillion in the developed countries. This is putting a lot of pressure on the manufacturing industry, whatever it may be. And the history of the large scale fatal accidents like in Bhopal, Texas City, Burnsfield, Deepwater Horizon, they all indicate that something is wrong. And all the regulators, the statutory bodies like OSHA, HSE Executive, Irish Health Administration or Authority, they are set up by the act of their respective parliament, and they have accountability to save lives, not only the lives of the client, the operating company, but the poor contractors who keep on changing companies from one year to another. And if our permit work system, which actually is supposed to give a safe workplace to our contractors, is not assured, then there will be always uncertainty. So the responsibility of the regulators and statutory bodies across the globe has, along with the tremendous pressure on the manufacturing sector, has put a lot of pressure on all of us in the industry, to make sure that the major instrument platform of making our work controlled through the permit to work system is foolproof. There should not be major gaps, there should not be loopholes, and that is how all the regulators, like Dan, you have mentioned, HS in UK, OSHA, CSP in US, European Union, OSHA, and Ireland, of course, Health and Safety and Authority, they are putting a lot of expectations on the
Sure.
industry partners to deploy and
To get it
implement
right
the
and to get it right.
electronic permit work.
Sure.
Exactly, exactly.
So I suppose in your travels, when you go around, lots of people don't realize sometimes that their permit direct system mightn't be the best. Now, we're talking today, we probably refer to client and contractor. I know organizations might have no contractors, it wouldn't be so usual, but for the purposes of our conversation, let's go with the client working with third-party contractors. Of course, they might just be dealing with their own engineers and fitters and so forth as well. But a lot of companies will tell you they have a good permit system. What actually separates, though, in your opinion, Dr. Hull, a real one from one that's just it's a paperwork exercise?
Yeah, I have done a lot of audits, Dan, on permit to work system in many companies. After I retired from regular employment, I am doing a lot of freelance auditing. Some 90 companies I have visited in the Asian subcontinent. And I found that still some people treat a permit as a movie ticket. So the people who are issuing the permit, they think that they are doing a great favor to the permit receivers. And permit receivers see permit as an impediment. Their work progress is holding until the permit is issued. And once they receive, they think, they have got the movie ticket. They do not realize in many cases, of course, things are changing depending how they are being sensitized in their permit to work training, how seriously the permit to work training is taken in these companies. They do not realize, in many cases, that it is a joint responsibility. The permit issuing authority or permit issuing party or operating party, whatever you call it, they have a very serious responsibility to make the workplace safe through energy isolations, through site visit. There could be some sporadic site hazards coming from situations, and it is also the joint responsibility of the permit receiving party or performing party or the contracting agency that they will do the job safely. So they have their set of hazards and responsibility to close it through their methods. And many times I've seen people fail to check how the workplace and the nature of job are interacting with each other,
Hmm.
how the simultaneous operations around that workplace are interacting with each other, and failures to look at the things in entirety lead to some very bad accidents, major accident hazards that we call in the industry. So, answer to your question would be people say that they have a permit to our system, but it is like a fill the checkbox mentality. They think it is just a permission, not a responsibility.
That's
And
one.
if the
It's one they might have even pulled off the web. They haven't even customized some of the questions or the technical content. I suppose that what you're saying leads me on to another question, which is kind of where does the permit to work system most commonly break down then in complex manufacturing sites anyway? Is it kind of at the issue, the permit issuer stage? Is it during the execution, or is it at the closeout, or maybe it's all of the above? Where do you think is the most common breakdown point?
well, it depends where we are weak during permit issuing and depends upon the organization. So at the permit issuing step, if the permit issuing party are not serious about energy isolations, about chemical hazard isolation, passivation, and if the people who are made in charge of issuing the permits have not gone through the thorough training, they have not gone through, first of all, theory classes, then the practical classes, on the job training, and without that, if somebody and without experience, somebody has been made permit issuer, they do not understand the importance of verifying at the site, then there could be a breakdown at the issuing step. Now, at the permit receiving step and doing the job step, if the contractors are not well aligned with the client way of working, client safety management system, if their alignment is not, very sound, and if the contractor has been made to think, hey, this is another place where they can do whatever they want, whichever they want. If they get the slightest of the feeling that culture is very relaxed here, then there could be a breakdown at the permit receiving and at the working step. The third step is the actually the joint responsibility when the performing party has to bring back the workplace to the original status. If they have done, for example, excavation, they have to fill back. If they have, for example, gone inside a confined space, they don't box it up unless everything is clean from inside and all the trays and internals are fitted as per the drawing. So, and before the boxing up, for example, I gave the confined space, the performing party, their engineers, their inspection people have to go and verify that everything delivered back after the servicing by the contracting agency is back to normal or not. Then there could be a breakage point or the weak point during the closeout period. So what I'm trying to say, there is no universal standard that everywhere the weak point is in the beginning or in the working
Gotcha.
step or in the close. It all depends how weak we are at for that particular step. I have seen in the same company there could be weak point in one plant and there could be weak point in another step in another plant. It all depends upon the management of that particular plant,
And I
particularly the
think
large ones.
I think it's important to probably realize people don't learn work permit by osmosis. It has to be a structured program. You have to train people on the different steps, both the issuers, the receivers, and the closeout. So sometimes people just end up in the role, and I think it's what they are. They're in a very significantly risky position if they're doing permit to work and they're not receiving proper training. I know when we're managing risk within permits, we use things like RAMs or JSAs inside that, a risk assessment method statement. Would you find oftentimes that sometimes there might be a good RAMs and the permit is weaker? Do you find a bit of a disconnect? Because obviously the RAMs would form a core part of the work permit. Do you find that's an area of breakdown as well?
Yes, the RAMs and its connection with the hazard tree is very important. The good PTW software providers provide a skeleton hazard tree with whatever information has been provided by the client and whatever emerged from the interaction between the software provider and the client. But over a period of time, depending upon the different types of the work and finding out, picking up the hazards involved in the job and hazards found in the workplace and the ways to control, this becomes an evolving process. So hazard tree and the control associated control tree is a progressive process, and all the people involved from the operating side, operating party or permit issuing party, and the work performing parties who are led by different departments of the client, like engineering department and housekeeping department, for example, inspection department. So they build it. Now, all the hazard controls that we are bringing could be from hierarchy of control, a particular step from the hierarchy of control, that has to talk to the RAM of the company, risk assessment matrix. It could be 5 by 5 nowadays. All the big ones like British Petroleum and even QatarEnergy. My last regular employer was Reliance Industries Limited, which is India's #1 energy company in the private sector. They are 8 by 8 RAM. So every control that we do for a hazard, that talks to the RAM, and the initial risk situation of that particular activity has to move down into the RAM to the low risk zone. And if we do not perfect that RAM, or people sometimes defeat that RAM from the permit to our system, they just have a random selection of the hazards and then the random selection of controls. But this becomes a guesswork. We should make it at least semi-quantitative, and that is where the hazard tree should be smart enough so that every control that we take talks to the RAM, and RAM says, hey, now you are in an acceptable zone, you are in the green zone, you are in low risk zone, and then you can issue the permit.
Gotcha.
So I agree with you. This is a very important aspect to mature an electronic permit to our system.
Because it leads on maybe to another question in and around competence. And I suppose what does best practice actually look like if we're trying to verify the competence of contractors involved with the permit to work system? What does it maybe even say before a permit is issued? What does best practice from contractor competence look like in your opinion, anyway?
Very good. Very important question as well. Majority of work in a major company are done by contractors, and they should demonstrate a minimum competence, not from general plant induction, from emergency response or point of view, but in the permit to work system, they should understand what risk assessment means, and they should undergo minimum hours of training as the permit receivers, responsibility of permit supervisor or the job supervisor, the basics of verifying the isolation points, whether they should be having ability to go to the isolation point, check whether the tags are provided or not, the permit numbers are there or not in the isolation certificate, the authorized isolation person has signed or not. So if the contractor is not competent, contractor means not everyone, the supervisors who will receive the permit and supervise the job, they should know what are the checkpoints, what are the gates, important gates, which assure the safety of their people.
Hmm.
And this is what I told you, isolation points, and not starting the work till the field operator who is working on the behalf of the permit issuing SIP supervisor has come at the site, verified all the controls, and signs either through the PDA, personal digital device he can sign, and it updates the system in the PTW system, or he will, if that smart system is not there, he can sign on the physical printout, and on the basis of signature, the permit receiver will sign off, hey, I have, we have jointly verified the readiness, preparedness from the workplace point of view, from the interaction between workplace and my the job. And I have also, briefed my people. I am ready with method statement. We have gone through our SOPs, everything, the way we are going to work. So that signature at the field, either digitally or in a hard copy mode, which can be updated later on in the permit system status change, is done, then nobody can assure, even the permit receiver cannot assure that his people will be safe. The concept, he should understand the concept of personal safety padlock. So every permit holder should be able to put his personal safety padlock at the point of isolation, or whichever way that isolation has been devised. His key should be there so that nobody can accidentally energize the system.
Sure. And
Uh, so all
and in that point there, if you're talking about say lockout tagout, for example, what in a permit, what would separate for you something that's ticked versus being verified? Is that the distinction that the inspectors are going to be looking for now? So it's not just a tick
Yeah,
box exercise.
exactly. Actually, the electronic permit to, I like the electronic permit to work system because of the safety interlocks. It it makes life of the permit issuer also very safe, because he cannot authorize the energization of an equipment unless all associated permits which are issued on that particular system or that equipment are in the closed mode. In the manual system time, sometimes the paper mismanagement used to take place. If five permits had been issued on a equipment or in a particular production unit, and four permits have been closed and one permit has been misplaced, or the poor contractor has not returned it to the control room, and the ship supervisor, because there could be hundreds and thousands of permits in the shutdown, in the turnaround, and sometimes people miss the permit here and there. Sometimes it is hidden in some drawer. And so in the electronic permit to system, unless all the permits have been surrendered by the performing party and accepted by the permit issuer as accepted, closed, he cannot press the authorize for energization button, because the moment he says authorize for energization for that equipment, there will be flag alert. No, you cannot authorize because one permit is still live. It has not been surrendered.
Yeah.
So as it makes life safer for the permit issuing agency party, it also makes life of the inspectors. These are the points. Show me that, and can create a scenario. They will say, okay, four permits are closed. Now you go and energize the system, and the system will say, no, I cannot,
Yeah,
because one permit is still.
because they
So,
should be
so
daisy chained if you have multiple permits.
exactly.
That's exactly.
So this is the safety interlock is one of the major advantages in electronic permit system. It gives 100% assurances that due to manual error, you cannot keep life of anybody
Yeah.
working on that equipment at jeopardy, at risk.
Okay. So I guess all of these things, when they're mismanaged, they kind of add up to, I suppose, a weak permit to work system. Their exposures from a compliance point of view, one from the health and safety regulator in terms of their expectations. But as I mentioned at the beginning, it's not always just about the compliance and is a permit to work system good enough. A lot of it, and sometimes health and safety professionals, sometimes we miss the operational impacts of things as well. And I think there are very significant operational impacts for companies who just have a poor permit to work system. Would you agree with me in that? And what do you think some of those operational impacts are in terms of poor work control management?
Yes, see, first of all, compliance to the compliance culture does not make us safe. What makes us safe is our satisfaction that I have made my risk at acceptable level, from the high risk level to acceptable level. And to do that, even if I have to take some time in preparation, I have to do it because the consequences are going to be horrendous. Consequences could be beyond our imagination. And once we find that somebody has lost his life or some people have lost his life, it is too late. So, operational control is the buzzword. While regulatory compliance, that I have trained my people, I have a permit to work system, it looks good, and I have submitted the compliance report or whatever. But unless we are operationally sound, unless we have brought our workplace operational hazards to control, either when we are working during the live plant situation or in the shutdown situation, uh, unless we do that, we will not be doing justice with management of safety. So, uh, come what may be, there should be permit to work system works better when the BBS also works better in that company, the behavioral based safety. So we want to achieve the target. We have to start up the plant. Yes, that's fine. Everything works as per the project plan. But if something unforeseen has come up, if some valve is leaking, and it was a double block and bleed situation, and we could not provide a blind because it is like a 50-inch pipeline, and then even though we have depressurized that particular system, but the two valves, as I mentioned, are passing, then we have to actually blind. We have to do the risk assessment because I can give you a story. I am afraid I don't have time because of this assumption, not a blinding, and we nearly killed a welder because this assumption that valves are holding and they were actually passing, and then the detection system, FNG detection system was under revamping and shut down, and the shift supervisor made an assumption that detection is working, and the communication from one shift to another was very poor, not written that the fire and gas detection system has been bypassed. And in the morning when permit was issued based on this assumption, no blinding done. That welder ignited his electrode and he was burnt alive in the ball of fire. So answer is operational control as per the situation has to be tackled at that point of time so that we are in the acceptable risk zone in the RAM. And it has to be, even if the project gets delayed by 1 or 2 days, that's why we are having day-to-day meeting, operational meeting, shutdown meeting, project meeting.
And I
And
think you probably just touched on it there as well. So the operational impact of poor permit control is downtime. It's inside there. It's incidents. It's time investigating incidents and all the insurance claims that come with that. The whole rework sometimes. I think as well it's just not efficient for contractors coming on site if they're not sure who to ask, if they're not sure can I do this or not, because they're coming in, they're your guests basically while the work is going on. And the whole production interruption, I think they're probably the things that sometimes as safety professionals we tend to err more on the side of compliance, whereas I
yeah,
think the costs are there otherwise as well, for the business as
yeah,
well inside.
yeah, some of these can be avoided if we first time it may take time, but if the same thing we are doing again and again the second time around, then
Mm,
we are smarter and we save time. So
yeah.
yes, the first time we perfect the system, we mature a system, standardize a system. Yes, it. But then electronic permit system we have cloned it. We have, we can duplicate the way we did last time, unlike in the manual system,
Mm,
and and we will actually save time much faster in the
right.
future repetition of similar jobs. First time it could be, yeah, all the downtime could be there, but then as I said, this is the part of the learning curve,
Mm,
and the first time we should pay or we should devote enough time till we are all happy risk assessment wise from the residual risk status wise. And in future, when we are doing the same job or similar job, which would be much faster because we are able to retrieve all the data from our previous work. We have to, of course, fine tune. We
You've
have to
built your
review.
framework as well inside there as
Yeah,
well. So
yes, 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 yes.
I'm
Yeah.
wondering as well in terms of, I mean, you work on different sites, different continents where you could have lots of employers, lots of different shifts at the same time, lots of different contractors, different compounds. Inside there, I think just having live visibility of active work permits across the site, I think do you feel that's becoming a baseline
Yes,
expectation rather than kind of a nice to have inside there?
it, it is extremely useful feature, the dashboards, and the permit to electronic permit to work system is very smartly linked to the dashboard. And you have, for example, if you want to see all the live open flame works,
Hmm.
then you just press that button and you will see all the open flame work and some inspector, regulatory inspector, the government inspector will like to go to all the open flame job, how it will be quick for him. Second thing, it also that dashboard helps in the emergency response.
Hmm.
When any, God forbid, anything goes wrong, then the same dashboard could be in the fire control room.
Yeah.
And if there is a fire incident and fire incident, the fire and gas detectors will tell that the alarm is coming from this point of view, and the fire brigade will come to know, hey, in this area there was an open flame, and this was at this
And
platform.
that's where seconds matter as well in emergencies and stuff. You don't have to go asking. The information is just there
E-
at your
e-
fingertips.
Exactly, it helps in the emergency response. And also, third thing I have found out that in the dashboard, the simultaneous operation is also well managed
Hmm.
because you cannot keep on issuing permit after a permit in a particular geographical location or at a multi levels in a particular location. So there has to be a limit. If I am issuing a permit at a lower level in a particular technological structure, and I have issued two permits at a higher elevation, then I will not issue
Yeah.
the third permit at lower elevation because something may can fall from top. So I
Yeah.
will like to know the status of the top two permits. Hey guys, what is the status? I'm sending my operator. When you think you will be finishing? Yes, sir. In 3 hours we will be finishing. So once after 3 hours, those two jobs happening at higher elevation are done, maybe some lifting operation or whatever, some pressure testing. Then once it is finished, then only I will issue the permit at the lower elevation in the same technological structure. I'll put some note, I will put some flagging in my system that after 3 hours, check the status of those two permits, and then only I will issue. So this dashboard is extremely useful. Nowadays, some companies have only 2D dashboard, but I prefer 3D dashboards. And you come to know that you are in the middle of the plant and you can see the 3D dashboard also,
Hmm.
and where exactly at what elevation, at what 3D space it is located.
Very good. Okay. So I guess, and this is something you could probably write a book on, but in the interest of just our conversation today and before we close, if you had 6 months to come in and lift a permit to work system or contractor management system up to a defensible standard for a particular client who had concerns about where they are today. And I phone you, say, look here, we want to look, we have 6 months to get this under control, Dr. Tull. What next? What would be your sequence of moves inside that? Just the very top level. Obviously, we could go on forever on
Yeah,
this one, but yeah,
uh,
what would you do?
definitely, everything starts with a baseline audit where we stand, what
Yeah.
is the gap analysis we call. So maybe one site or one organization is better off than the another site. One site may have a lot of things to learn. Even their manual system is not good enough. They do not understand very well what is the risk assessment, what are the hazards. So baseline audit is required. Then in that baseline audit, you can also ask many questions. How well the electronic permit system is understood by the permit issuing party
Mhm.
and some contractors, since when they are using, how are there any glitches, how how smooth they are. So that is a baseline audit. Then whether people have a database of the hazards, what are the various failure modes in that site, whether people have a good appreciation of the hazards, whether a hazard tree has been developed, whether they have a isolation database for the process vessel, whether they have isolation database for electrically energized equipment. Then we will, at the maybe third step, third month, maybe we will see the competency framework. How many hours of training should be given? What should be the module in the training? How many on-the-job training should be there? What are the questions to be asked? 80% and above only will be asked to actually do the permit business, like issuing, subject to on-the-job completion successfully.
Okay.
Then fourth, again, as I said, building up uh, the talking thing between the hazard tree and the risk assessment matrix, whether contractors are contributing to that hazard tree development or not, whether they are bringing in some additional controls or not from the nature of the work that they are going to do. And of course, the dashboards, how the dashboard is being utilized.
Mm.
Then I will also like to see that if the company is very big, the geographical layouts are very big. There are a lot of movements from the field to the control room where people log into the site. So I will see whether there is a need for assisting the site with some field devices.
Right.
Whether they can authorize certain things or whether they can change the status of the permit from one level to another from the field. So that human wastage of time could be another thing where some advancement can be made. And closure, whether the permits are being closed properly or not, I will see. Of course, that can be done as a part of database.
Yeah.
But what I meant to say, whether people are able to utilize the history which is in the archive. If people are doing the job, the same job 6 months later or 1 month later, whether they are able to retrieve the old risk assessments, old descriptions, and they are able to review or not. So these are various steps, right from understanding of hazards, risk assessment, building the
Yeah.
competence, understanding the importance of ILO to isolation, lockout, tagout, and try out, how they are visiting the site, the closer, the whether the site has been brought to the original state or not. And most importantly, people are aware or people are sensitized about transparency of the system, because I have seen ever since the electronic permit has been brought in the industry, people have become more cautious. They
Mm.
know everything they are entering by the way of risk assessment. It is auditable, everything is traceable, it is highly password protected. You can have a biometric control. So unlike in a manual system where people could do the mischief, this is not possible here. High accountability, high transparency, high auditability is there. All these things will be part of the development when
Mm.
we are deploying electronic permit system. And if the manual system has been understood well, uh, this helps in deploying the electronic permit system.
Right.
Uh, if you straight away deploy an electronic permit to a system, but people do not have a base, what is the philosophy behind it,
Yeah.
then it fails.
Yeah.
So the training should have all the basics incorporated in the module. Then the features of the electronic permit to system should be also in the training module. What are the key gates? uh, what are the interlocks? Sometimes, many certificates themselves become platform for risk assessment. For example, if some radiography is to be done, you are doing the X-ray for a welded pipe, you cannot authorize a permit unless a radiation protection supervisor authorized that radiography certificate after doing all his precautions executed at site. So based on the authorized by RPS or certified by RPS, the readiness of the site, the permit issuer will authorize the permit. He cannot authorize a permit in advance while the radiation protection supervisor or the radiographer are still making the preparation. So a lot of interlocks between the certificate, which are the mini platforms for risk assessment, uh, and the main permit, which is the final place where we authorize the permit. Both the things are talked, a lot of interlocks are there. So
Yeah.
uh, all the good things which humans could not manage because of some limitations, either intentional or unintentional. All those things have been taken care on the permit to work system. In the industry, permit to work system is answered because we cannot rely on the human error. People's minds get diverted in the shift. The poor shift supervisors have to manage so many things.
Yeah. Mhm.
So this electronic permit will come to the rescue for sure. It is coming to the rescue.
No, I think you've summarized inside there that the main drivers why companies are moving towards electronic permit to work systems as well. I think what we see as well is that now obviously with apps as well, if you can get out in the workplace, you can go down physically visit the area with tools. And there's also AI intelligence coming in. So it can actually say, okay, you can have two permits that might look okay, but you can have AI intelligence these days now that pick up, say, actually, now we've detected these two jobs that are happening. And there's a new hazard now all of a sudden that might have been missed by the two separate permits being issued straight away. So there's some very, very exciting things happening there as well. So I suppose in terms of maybe just a general wrap up as well, permit to work systems, I suppose, that do hold up, that are, I suppose, that are performing under regulatory pressure, they share three things, is what I've learned from you. So it's that they've competent contractors who are being verified before they even arrive. Okay.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
approved RAMs are sitting underneath every high risk permit. So there's a good
Yes.
solid process there on the risk assessments. And there's a live
Yeah.
audit trail that anyone can pull at any one point. You know what's happening, you know who did what, and very quickly to see it as well. I think the companies that are doing this well, they're not doing that on paper anymore, anyway, for sure, because the complexity
Yeah.
is simply outgrown what paper can carry and manage today. I just want to just note to our viewers as well here that Dr. Tool has developed a permit to work readiness check as well. So I'm going to be putting up the contact details for both of us in a minute, so we can send you on that. And on the recording afterwards, we'll actually put in a link to do that readiness check as well. But I think if you have any questions, I'm just going to pop up on the screen here. Just one moment, just some contact details, particularly for Dr. Atul. If you'd like to talk to him afterwards, just see if you can see that there. So he's got a contact number and also a Gmail account that you can contact him as well. So he's done lots and lots, many, many years traveling different continents with experience and the training, technically putting these together, paper-based systems and moving to electronic as well. I'm delighted to have you today, Doctor, as well. My own contact details are there as well. If we're not connected on LinkedIn, hey, let's get connected on the network as well. We'll have more of these talks as well. Any suggestions below as well, they're always welcome. I hope you find it useful, and we hope you stay in the right side of the regulators out there. And we look forward to seeing you again on a future session. So thanks again, Dr. Atul, as well.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for the opportunity. And I am sure we will interact with the partners in the industry as and when required, when necessary. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks again, Doctor. God bless. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.